Okay, so hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're doing our annual Let's Talk About the Oscars thing. Yeah, sorry if you can hear a weird noise in the background, but I have my AC on just because it's really hot in São Paulo right now. Like, my makeup as it is already melting off my face, so just bear with the background noise. I know I'm so late to do this because the Oscars is actually this weekend and I won't have time to talk about all of the movies, so I kind of prioritize and will only talk about those nominated for Best Feature Film and a few of the others nominated for either Best Actor, Best Actress, or Best Supporting Actor or Actress. And I will only talk. So in the end I'll kind of make a selection and we'll discuss 12 films in total, 6 today and 6 tomorrow. So let's get to it. Yeah. First off, a general panel of where the Oscars are at this year. I think they learned the lesson from last year's The Oscars So White. They really took into consideration films made by and for people of color. There are a couple of movies that I wouldn't have thought of as contenders for the Oscars that are, and I think a little bit of that is a political choice to include people of color. But I also think there are still some things that are iffy about the Oscars, namely the fact that Casey Affleck's nominated for an Oscar, even though women have come forward accusing him of sexual abuse. But we'll get there when we talk about Manchester by the Sea, which is tomorrow's video. But let's get to the movies of today. And I first like to talk about the two main contenders of this year, Moonlight and La La Land. I think they have been discussed to exhaustion everywhere, so if you haven't seen either of those movies, you have at least heard about them. So there isn't much I can say. I don't have that much to contribute to the discussion. I just wanted to say that this year the Oscars has a very clear choice to make. I think La La Land represents a self-indulgent Hollywood. It kind of reminds me of the year The Artist won. I think La La Land, just as The Artist, is a great movie, but it is very much self-indulgent. It is Hollywood talking about how great Hollywood is. I don't blame it for being so white. I don't blame it for being so middle class, aspiring artist Hollywood. I think that's all part of what the movie thinks itself as, but I also think it is self-indulgent, and if Hollywood gives La La Land the Oscar for Best Picture, I think it sends a very clear message, just as I think the year Avatar lost sent a pretty clear message as to what Hollywood was looking for. It was looking for stories, good acting, good scripts, and instead of like effects. I think La La Land winning would signify that Hollywood is very much absorbed into its own universe and it's not here for politics, which I think would be a huge shame. It is basically the same message the Grammys sent, giving Adele the Grammys instead of Beyonce's Lemonade. It's the same basic discussion. La La Land, besides being a good movie, I really do think it's a good movie, and besides it being self-indulgent, which I think it is very much self-indulgent, I don't think La La Land is that revolutionary. People have been saying, oh, but this is the comeback of the classical musical. They've been saying that the director resurrected a dead era of musicals. I'm like, sorry, but La La Land's not that revolutionary. I mean, just last year I saw a modern musical that was much better than La La Land, and that is, I only know the name in Portuguese, but it's a really good movie. I saw it at the International Film Festival, and it's about two mermaids that come to shore and start walking on land, and it's their story, and it's very gore and has original music and it's all indie music. It's a modern day, sad, gore, terrifying, original Little Mermaid as it was intended, with this tragic ending and stuff. And I think that is a wonderful movie, and it is a musical, so I think people that say, oh, it's the comeback of musicals, I don't think it is. I think people have been doing that for a long time. I think there are other modern musicals that are just as good as La La Land. And to say that someone resurrected musicals as an idea in the era of Hamilton, I just, I don't think it's all that thing. But that is not to say I don't think La La Land's a good movie. I think it is. But to me, the best movie nominated has to be Moonlight. And it has to be Moonlight for a number of reasons. First of all, the political reason. But second of all, because I think it's a movie that stayed with me a lot more than La La Land has, and it's a movie that made me think about society and made me think about filmmaking. And I read a review from The Guardian, I think, talking about Moonlight and comparing it to Boyhood in the sense that it's phases of someone's life. And I can see that. I can see that instead of being the natural flow of actors getting older, it is very much separated and different actors playing the same character, but I think it works in that same way of seeing a person's life. And I think there's something to be said about it being divided in 3 parts. I think that's very spiritual. There's something religious about that. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And I think all of that religious stuff is, of course, very present in it, because one of the movie's most memorable scenes is the young kid learning how to swim, and that scene's kind of a baptism in itself, and it's the beginning, it's kind of the opening for this new life, but this new life that also follows the patterns. And it is a really great discussion about society and what it means to be formed by a set of circumstances. Of course, there's also the issue of sexuality and manhood and what it is to be a man out into the real world. And I just think this movie is a real look into Black America and Black men in America, and I think this is so important and so contemporary. And yeah, I think Hollywood has a great chance of going political, and I'm so afraid that we will chicken out and not be political. Then we have Hidden Figures, which I also think is very much a political choice by the Academy. I wouldn't normally consider Hidden Figures to be like an Oscar contender under other circumstances, but I think they chose movies that had this political significance. Even if at the end of the day they won't necessarily award those movies, they still put them in the competition for a reason. And I think Hidden Figures, if Moonlight is about the tale of manhood in Black America today, Hidden Figures is the tale of Black women in America throughout the ages. It's very much contemporary in the sense that even though this movie passes years and years ago, the same issues still arise today for Black women in America. And I think that we can see the change, the shift in gears in Hollywood by how many movies this year have been female driven and with female leads, and Hidden Figures represents that, and also females of color being the leads and being in telling their stories and having their voices heard. I think putting this in the top movies of the year was a really nice pick for the Academy Awards. Then we go to another female-driven movie, which is Arrival. I think Nerdwriter did a really good review of it. I'll link down below. I absolutely adore Arrival, even though I have some really serious issues with it as well. So first of all, I like that it's cyclical. I love how it sees language in various different ways. Language as, of course, the science of communication, but also language as time, as something expressed through time. As I say something, it takes time. As I write something, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And how it incorporates that into its own cinematic view of things, because cinema very much has that, has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you are forced to see things even in this double timeline montage that they try to do. Still, it's something that you experience through time in a linear form as you watch it. I really liked it because it makes clear the language of the medium itself, and it reminded a little bit of kind of an older movie called Comet with Emmy Rossum, where her character talks about how she experiences life as a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end, but she wishes she could experience life as a painting, something that is there and you can go in and out of and focus on different parts and go back to and revisit, and it's always there as a whole form thing. And I think Arrival kind of does that. It sees language and time and space and cinema itself as a painting, but that you can go back and revisit, and it's there as a whole, instead of something you experience through time. And I think that use of language is really interesting, and something that the review from Nerdwriter really evaluates really well. So I will strongly recommend anyone going and seeing that video. But I also have really strong problems with Arrival. The main one being that I think there are two films at play here. One is really good, it's really interesting, and it is the film focused on the language and focused on the science and the interpersonal thing, which is like the main film that everyone sees. But I also think there's a second film that is less developed, less interesting, and it's the political thing. And of course the political thing is the part of the film that causes intrigue, and it's the problem to be solved, and it's the old formula that a movie needs to have a problem to get fixed by the end. And of course, like, if aliens came to Earth, political issues would very much be a thing, but I think the movie gave it very little time, so it felt kind of flat. Felt like, hey, we have problems, we are not ignoring the fact that there will be problems. And I'm very curious to read the book and see if that is more explored, because I think they could either explore it more or just ignore it, like leave it as a background noise, sort of, that you can understand that there's more going on, but our characters don't really intervene that much. I think it would have been a better film. I also really like the sound editing in the beginning. You can hear kind of muffled sounds, and I think that gives you like a claustrophobic feel, and sort of a panic attack feel that very much mirrors Amy Adams' character. And I think that was really good, and I wish they would carry that out throughout the film. They do a little bit, but I think it was just as much as in the beginning, because that sound editing was really different for me and something that I really enjoy. We have Hacksaw Ridge, which is like a far down the line kind of third contender for Best Picture. Maybe not, maybe that's Manchester by the Sea. Okay, a far down the line fourth contender. Hacksaw Ridge is the token war movie for the Oscars. I think the Oscars cannot exist unless there's a war movie. I don't know what's up with Hollywood. They are really into war movies, and I think most of it has been done and seen about 1 million times, and even with Mel Gibson's gore touch to the war scenes, I still thought like, we've seen that. But let's get to it. First of all, I would like to say that we have to criticize Mel Gibson as a human being, and also Vince Vaughn. They're like two human beings I don't feel particularly comfortable talking good things about. So I just wanted to put that out there. But then I think Hacksaw Ridge is a good movie. It is a little bit cliche, and it does carry the trait Mel Gibson trying to evangelize the universe and being like, angels are real, woo! But I also think it deserves merit for the simple fact that it sees war through a different light. It is a side of war that, even though war itself has been very, very exhaustively explored by Hollywood, this side of war hasn't, and I think that's something to be said about it. I also think the movie is very long. It could have been edited, and one of them is this one. I literally had to stop the movie and laugh out loud at this. It was so random, and we're like in the middle of a battle and stuff, and then you just see Andrew Garfield taking a shower. It was like, why? And there's a bunch of little things like that. I'm just like, why is this necessary? Ending, I very much love to hear from the real people, and I think giving voice to the real people behind the movie, it's very important. I just think that the way it was done, it felt kind of like a bad History Channel documentary ending. You know, I think it was cheesy, but other than that, I just have to say that like Andrew Garfield is such a good freaking actor, and I know he'll probably lose for Ryan Gosling, but I just have to say that like, oh, I advise you to see him doing an interview about silence with Stephen Colbert, and it's just really good. He's such a thoughtful guy and good actor that studies for his characters, and he's just funny. Like, that interview with Colbert is very deep and serious, but otherwise he's just a really funny guy, and I'm just kind of in love with Andrew Garfield. It's not a contender for Best Picture, but it is for Best Actress, and that is Jackie. I think Jackie is 100% supported by Natalie Portman's performance. If it weren't for how good Natalie Portman is, I don't think the movie would have worked quite as well as it did. I think there's a number of reasons why that movie is interesting. I'm not sure I agree with cinematic choices. I think some of the jump cuts were really weird. I do love the close-ups of her face and her looking kind of into the camera. I think that is really good. But the jump cuts was just weird, and the soundtrack was just too much. Too loud, too often. I think the movie would have been better with a little bit of silence. But I think Natalie Portman is just really, really, really good in it. And I think the script is also really good because it focuses on a specific side and a specific part of Jackie Kennedy Onassis. And I'm very interested now in seeing like a full-length mini-series about her. Because we often think of her as just being like this style icon, the American royalty of sorts, but we don't think of her as being like a smart being like a smart woman, and we don't think of her as speaking a number of languages and being so charismatic that she makes her husband seem a more interesting guy, just because if he's able to be with her, then maybe he has some merit, you know. And I think our view on what first ladies are has changed a lot, mainly because of Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama. But I think Jackie also has like multiple sides that we don't often consider when talking about her. I do love though that JFK himself is just like a side character on this. I think that's wonderful. He's practically like a cameo in the background, and I think that's wonderful because that's not his story. His story is very well told already. We all know it by heart. This is Jackie's story, and yeah, I really loved that, how they respected that she was the main character on this and they focus on that. So okay, tomorrow we'll talk about some other movies, and that's it for today. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Happy Oscars weekend. Yay!